Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Experience Kills. This is episode 39 and first of all I am your host Ben and I want to give props out to the wonderful Rob who did a fantastic job hosting last week and he'll be hosting again soon I am sure. And that was a great episode. Richard obviously wasn't available for that podcast on his 2-week cycle and he's back with us today. So welcome guys. How are we all doing? We in a good place today? We excited?
Yeah, pretty good because football's coming to our house today, isn't it? Coming home, is that what you say?
I believe it's homecoming, is it not? Like the dance in America.
Spider-Man home ball, I don't know. Yeah, football.
Spider-Man far from home in this situation.
We won't spend too long on the football because, you know, this is a video game podcast. You know, we are going to talk about things we watched as well in a minute. But final is tonight. Good luck to all involved. I hope it's a great match, a fair match, and I hope it doesn't end in penalties. And that's all I'm going to say about it because that's too stressful.
Can you imagine?
Yes, I've been there. It's happened a lot, so I can imagine. So fingers crossed not that.
Imagine poor Gareth Southgate though, if it goes to penalties.
Well, do you think they'll get him to take one?
He wouldn't be able to watch, would he?
He'll come out and take
yeah, get him in.
Reduction.
Yeah, get him to take the last one.
But anyway, we'll leave it at that and let's get into what has become our kind of regular segment at the beginning of the show, which is our discussion of all things Marvel. And there's a couple of things this week. One, we're going to be very careful on spoilers for Rob's sake, and for everyone, because it's brand new. But the other one, let's get into it and let's do a spoiler warning straight up for Loki Episode 5. We've all seen it. We're all up to date. Holy shite bags, is this not an amazing TV show?
I thought you'd say that, because we when we last spoke, we were
after
on
3.
episode 3, weren't we?
Yes, very different
You and I
feelings.
both had a bit of a downer on it.
We did,
and
that middle part wasn't great.
No, I watched 4 and 5 yesterday, and I thought, holy shit, Ben's going to love this. It's great.
Does episode 3 now make more sense as slightly more like the calm before the storm and a setup piece rather than a big event piece? Does it kind of now make more sense now we're seeing part 5 of the 6-hour movie essentially that is Loki?
It makes sense.
Point where it's doing
it wasn't the uneventfulness of it that really made me come away underwhelmed. It was, I think we talked about the tone and how it was quite Doctor Who-ish and I don't know, it just felt a bit flimsy to me. But
I think it's not Doctor Who-ish anymore.
No,
it's something else.
Put it in context with the rest of the series. And yeah,
I mean,
really great.
To answer Rob's question as well, I'm the same as Richard, but if all we've got to complain about is one slightly downer episode that wasn't quite where we wanted it, and the rest of it's as good as it has been, then I'm not too bothered. And man, they've got to stick the landing now. That's the hard part. How well do they stick this landing? And
everyone's turning around and saying it's Kang the Conqueror in that little house you see at the end.
Yeah, I've said that since the beginning, especially with Judge Renslayer being a love interest of Kang the Conqueror in the comics, which would definitely indicate a connection to that character. But I
don't know the comics. Well, I thought I looked at that ending. I thought, oh, maybe that's Alan Wake.
That'll be it. It's part of the Remedy connected universe. Who knew?
It's just a way to link that it's actually that Remedy multiplayer game is just Loki being Loki with different roles and abilities. Yeah. Okay, someone trademark that actually.
That might be alright. I mean, yeah, that would make Marvel's game better, wouldn't it? If every character was just Loki, the Square Enix one, that'd be more entertaining.
Just ripping hands off.
I don't know. I still think it's while that thing I pointed out is true, I do still think they've got plenty of directions they could take it. It doesn't have to be that. I think it could be Quantum Realm. I think it could be Doctor Strange related. I think it's got a lot of that kind of vibe to it, that last bit. I think it's definitely connecting to the Wanda stuff, and it's definitely connecting to the Multiverse of Madness and the new Ant-Man. It's all going to kind of come together, I think. This is all part of them sowing the phase direction. So Ant-Man's
How on earth is this mysticism related or magic related?
Oh, you wait.
It's Asgardians being Asgardians. Hang on, just what?
You wait, it's all going to be connected. I guarantee it. It'll all be connected.
No, I reckon this will be something separate.
Well, we're gonna
Because-
find out. It's gonna be exciting. Whatever happens, like, it's gonna be interesting. I actually really like what they did. Let's talk about the episode a bit more. I think. Yeah. What about all those Easter eggs, guys? How many did you get?
A Thanos copter. That was quite nice.
How good was that?
The
I
massive.
was going to
yellow
ask you
jacket
about that. I
helmet.
saw a big Thanos thing. What was that?
It
In
was
the comic books, he rides in a helicopter at one point.
so dumb.
Oh, does he?
Thanos
Right.
written on the
It's
side.
so dumb. But it's amazing. It's so dumb.
It's like one of the most like Thanos meme panels.
What else do you spot?
So
You
the massive yellow jacket helmet.
Yeah. Do you spot the Dark Esther and the helicarrier? Did you
Yeah.
see all that?
It was
Frog Thor?
kind of hard to miss the Dark Aster, to be
Yeah, it was
honest.
pretty hard. It was pretty big,
Eh.
big and obvious, wasn't it? Do you see Frog Thor?
Yes,
comics? In the
And
jar?
Mjolnir.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was cute.
What's his name? Sorry. I can't remember because Frog Thor's got an actual name, hasn't he? Like he goes by something specifically. It's not just Frog Thor. To the Googles. But there was loads, wasn't it? It was just a smorgasbord of like references and Easter eggs and just silly
God.
stuff from the Marvel universe. It was so much fun. It was so much fun.
The Polybius arcade machine. That
Oh,
was
yes!
appreciated.
That was cool, wasn't it? That
Yeah.
was cool. I mean, we didn't talk about that. I don't think we talked about episode 1, did we, Richard, me and you? But do you know the whole DB Cooper stuff they did? I thought that was fascinating as well with Loki, because that's a known. Do you know what that is, Richard?
No, tell
No.
me.
So you know in the first episode he's like talking to Owen Wilson, Mobius,
Yeah.
and he's like talking about that thing he went like on the plane with the bomb and I did it because it was a bet. You know all that thing.
Yeah.
In the suit. Well, that's a real thing that happened in the 60s. A guy hijacked an aeroplane and jumped out of it with the money after he got the ransom, and they never found him. And it was like nobody knows who it was, and they never caught the guy. And that's a real mystery that's still ongoing to this day. It's quite cool.
Oh, wow.
It went by the name DB Cooper. And then they've just made out it was Loki all along. I just love all the little references and the weird connections, and it's fun.
Few
It's really fun.
facts. So Frog Thor is called Throg.
Brilliant.
And it's a Chris Hemsworth cameo. It's his voice going, "Ah!" trying to get to the hammer.
That's good. That's good. Why not? That's good. I like that. There was so much good stuff in this episode. It was exciting. I liked the guard dog Cloud. That was fun. Yeah, just lots of good stuff. It was really good.
I'm still not convinced Sylvie is a Loki. All she's doing is talking about enchanting people.
Yeah, I think she could become the Enchantress. I don't know if that means she's not a Loki or if they're just gonna kind of move her in that direction. But
Maybe.
she's definitely grown on me. She's
Depends if
definitely.
they have a plan for her outside of the show, which I somehow doubt, because they're all self-contained units.
What do you think about the romantic connection?
I
Ethically, that's one step beyond incest, isn't it?
I don't even know what that is. You know,
I think
that's
it's just like masturbation with extra steps.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with it. I think it's totally in character. I think it's totally in character.
It is in
with Loki,
character. Yeah.
That
It's
he would have a
narcissism.
thing for himself. Of course he would.
Yeah.
Well, you know, that doesn't. I don't have issue with that. I think it's just funny and weird, and it fits the show really well.
Agreed.
That is, like Rob says, if it is Loki, that is the question, isn't it? Like,
I also don't foresee this having any sort of impact in the future at all. I think this show is more self-contained than WandaVision, because we know Scarlet Witch is going to be in the MCU again. Hiddleston has not been contacted by Marvel for any future project. So this is his last hurrah. This is the full stop.
yeah,
So
I mean,
it's-
you keep saying this, but it doesn't have to involve Loki. I mean, I think we're setting up something with the final episode that will have implications. It doesn't have to be Loki though. So I think it's still going to have an impact. Yeah, it's not
Fair
going to be
enough.
tied off with.
Do you think
just-
we might have another Loki then?
I mean, that's
Because
one option.
he's dead now, so maybe we get another one from one of the other multiverse.
Much
Well,
like
we've got
how,
another
well, that ties us into the other Marvel thing we've been talking about. We'll do this with less spoilers, but much how we might now have a different Black Widow, right? Might be going by a different name, obviously, but as everybody knows in Endgame, Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow dies, and that hasn't been undone by this movie, which I really enjoyed, but would have enjoyed so much more if it had come out within
Before
the
she
continuity. Yeah, like the amount of awesome, brilliant character work Scarlett Johansson does here with Black Widow, and how they build this character, how much more impactful her death would have been. It's just, you couldn't even measure it. Like, it's just insane that this came out and they struggled to get this made, and it was a hard sell and all of this and all the politics behind it. And it's such a shame. It's such a shame that it all kind of feels flimsy because it's kind of come out now.
It would have made both movies better, wouldn't it?
It really
Endgame
would've.
would have benefited. I think this movie
Hugely.
would have benefited because it does suffer from a lack of jeopardy. You know where it's going.
Yep. I had a great time.
The ride is great. I enjoyed it,
fab.
apart from a few dodgy accents. I didn't think Ray Winston was very good at all, but generally, pretty decent standalone movie for as they go. It's one of the better ones, isn't it?
It's sounding like a standalone movie, like Thor 1 is kind of just a self-contained thing. There's kind of the setup elements because the characters then used further forward in like the timelines and stuff like that. It sounds quite like...
Well, you know what? This felt more like, not so much Thor 1, but this felt like the first Avenger. This is Black Widow's origin story, for all intents and purposes.
Okay.
And it's kind of annoying like that we get that retroactively. And it would have been so much better straight after Winter Soldier, which is where it fits in the timeline. So
I believe we get context about Budapest as well, don't we?
We do. Lots of context around Budapest, yes.
Seen that, so I really want to see this movie, so I need to decide when I'm going to go to the cinema or just do it on Disney Plus. Yes.
I'd say it's worth it in the cinema. There's some really good set pieces, big action that works really well on a big screen, like really good. Obviously Taskmaster's in this, one of my favourite minor villains from the Marvel universe. I don't know how much you know about Robin. I won't spoil anything to do with what their take on Taskmaster is. All I'll say is, okay, yeah, it makes sense what they do in this. It's a big change, but it does make sense.
I can probably take a wild stab in the dark that it isn't the comic book incarnation of Taskmaster, who's just a man that can do the fighty things that he sees.
Well, no, he's got a proper origin story.
Sort of is that ish.
Well, it does the mimic thing, but it's not that what you said. Yeah, they tie it in. You said you didn't like Ray Winston's accent. I think the in-universe explanation for it, Richard, would be that he spends a lot of his time pretending to not be that character. So maybe he has a problem with his own self-identity, Richard.
I don't know. It wasn't just him. The accents were weird throughout. Because you had that whole first section where it's literally an origin story for Black Widow because it's her as a child and her family set up. And they're all, this traditional nuclear American family, right? Mm-hmm. They sound it. But then all of a sudden later on, when it gets to sort of nearer present day, and they're no longer part of that family together, you still see those characters, but somehow they can't speak with a clear American accent any longer.
Yeah, but because they're speaking their mother tongue, aren't they? They're speaking in the accent of the real origin, as it were.
Why are they an American family? It's all
you don't want spoilers. You don't want spoilers, Rob. You don't want spoilers, do you? So we're not going to spoil it.
Yeah, so this is verging ever closer to spoiler problems.
I was listening to Richard there, and I was like, "Be careful, Richard. Be careful."
Yeah, that's right at the beginning, so that's not spoiling anything.
Well,
when
the event happens in the movie is not predicated on it being a spoiler or not. Loki dying in Infinity War is a spoiler. It happens in the first 15 minutes.
I kind of agree with Rob on that one. Because it's different. If you're going to see a film, it's like anywhere in that movie, anything you talk about can be a spoiler. Yeah, I mean, if you want to avoid them.
I didn't even know Ray Winston was in it.
Yeah, but we didn't say who.
In the trailers.
I mean, I'm not sure that's a spoiler.
Much attention.
But, if it's in trailers, it's fair game, I think. But I really enjoyed it. I think it's definitely worth checking out. It's just a shame it didn't happen 5 years ago. It's a real shame.
Yeah.
The timeline is weird because it's like the weekend between the fight that they have at the airport in Civil War and then the scene when she breaks them out of the raft. It's like a week or two in there.
Bank holiday weekend from hell.
Yeah, it's a strange. I will give. We're not really talked about too much because we haven't spoilers, but Florence Pugh's character who's looking like a new take on the Black Widow going forwards, is brilliant. Like, she's brilliant.
She's great.
Like, she's so funny. She brings much needed humor, and she deals. Yes, that's right, Yelena. Yeah, okay. And she deals with how they all deal with the trauma, because some of this, there's some dark ass shit in this movie. Like, especially at the beginning when you realize what they've been through, and then you realize how much worse it's been for people after Natasha left, like the Red Room and stuff, and went to join the Avengers because of her departure. And it's like, oh, there is some really messed up concepts at play in this. And yeah, I think the threat and the villainy is really good. And as always, Marvel, I actually think Marvel did a good job here with the villain stuff. And yeah, I like the humor that Yelena brings, and the interplay between her and Natasha is really entertaining. And the whole family thing, the broken family thing, and all of that works really well as well. Yeah, I think it was a really good movie. I think it was really well made. Really, really well made. Yeah, definitely worth checking out. Anybody watched anything else? Richard, I know you have, Richard. I love that. I queued you up and then you didn't say anything.
I know. Sorry, I've forgotten what I've got on my list. What have I watched?
You put Fast and
I'll tell you why I was slow to respond, because what I watched was wholly forgettable. I watched Fast and Furious 9.
Take it back. Take it back.
It's terrible, mate.
Take it back.
It's terrible in a way that it's fun.
No.
They are bad. I'm going to say they're all bad. I haven't seen them.
What have you seen?
The first one. I've seen the first one and this one.
Oh, what the fuck? Like, everything you say now, I'm going to just toss out of an airlock. What the fuck are you talking about?
Like, how can you should have been tossed out of an airlock when they go to space?
Well, that's it.
In a car.
Yes, I'll toss Richard out of that airlock. I mean, you can't be. Oh, Richard. No, it's like, it's so predicated. That would be like watching, I don't know, Iron Man, and then watching Infinity War or Endgame and going, I don't know what's going on. Oh, what is all this crap? I mean, it's just like, you can't.
It isn't like that.
It is like that.
Infinity War and Endgame are reasonably explanatory if you just roll with it.
No,
Fast 9, they go to space in a car.
Yeah, but there's full of characters you don't
that thick.
Yeah, but there's full of characters you don't have any clue about, and it's exactly the same thing here. Like, the reason that this carries weight is because the characters in it. I didn't have trouble
following the characterization and narrative.
Yeah, but you don't understand the history and the family, man. You don't understand it.
Like all these memes that are coming out that it's like Dom and the Power of Family that are definitely not viral marketing provided by the studios publishing Fast.
Oh, you're such a cynic, Rob. Oh my god. I think it's just joy. That's the Fast family speaking out, brother. I mean, come on.
No, I enjoyed it for what it is. You can't pretend they're good movies. Come on. They're terrible.
I think
but it's a lot of fun.
He doesn't pretend they're good movies.
Richard,
he thinks they are.
You haven't seen them. How can you say they're not good movies?
They're good movies.
You haven't watched the films. You can't say they're not good movies.
I can discern the trajectory.
No,
so,
you
into the ground,
dude. There's 8. All right, so you've not seen the 7 previous movies, right? So you've seen the first and the 9th. You cannot be talking about how they're not good movies. I'm sorry. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 are directly related to each other and build upon each other. You cannot be throwing out stuff to say how they're not good if you haven't seen them. It'd be like watching Return of the Jedi and not seeing New Hope and Empire Strikes Back and be like, nah, shit, don't make sense. And it's like, you can't.
I'm not saying it doesn't make sense. It makes sense. It's just not very good.
I knew I liked you, Richard.
You're wrong. I'd agree it's not the strongest entry. Definitely, there are this is in the middle somewhere for me. There are better Fast movies,
so it just rolls and you stop watching.
We've talked about this before, haven't we? About how far is too far in your suspension of disbelief when it comes to technology and science, and how those things are treated in movies. And this has no respect for reality at all.
I think we found the line when the car goes to space.
Beyond that, though,
I'm not listening to you, Rob. You've not seen any of them. You
the
keep
car going
to
space. The car going to space. The car going to space is not the most unrealistic aspect of this film.
Oh, now I need to know, what's the most unrealistic aspect of this film?
The magnets, man. Oh, Jesus. Those magnets.
I thought you were going to say Vin Diesel's acting.
They're just really strong magnets, Richard. I don't understand what you can't understand about it. Like, they're really
strong
what do
magnets do? I don't care about
they've got super magnets attached to cars that they can shift the polarity of to either force other cars
Sorry.
away or attract other cars in. But not just cars, anything metal within the vicinity.
Yes, like a
I
magnet would
assume that
do.
also includes phones inside people's...
bicycles,
Yes.
guns, presumably metal fillings. Yeah, but they didn't show that. But
Does it
yeah,
only
and
affect cars in the movies?
No, it does all of that.
Well, it doesn't seem to affect the car that the magnets are in. That doesn't get torn apart instantly somehow. But yeah, it's
How
just
magnetic
silly.
fields work. they make a corona around the magnet, so it would just go round the magnet. That's what
But the
would
magnet's
happen.
in the car,
Yeah.
so it'd pull all the panels inside of itself, wouldn't it?
Exactly. Fucking shit movie.
It's just I don't understand. Like you can't. How do you defend? Like you didn't talk about any of the moments in Black Widow, and there are plenty which defy logic and physics and stuff.
There
like
are a
the
couple.
flying
There's a couple.
thing
Okay,
that's in it without spoilers.
There's a couple in Black Widow that I can't spoil, but near the end,
Yes, there's a lot of what the fucks at the end.
I'm also going to point out that the MCU is not meant to be the world we live in. It's meant to
but
be
I don't
very
think-
similar to...
but no- but neither is Fast and Furious.
Really? It's not meant to be set in the modern day?
Reality? I don't think so. I think it devised it moved away from reality long time ago.
Is that when they wanted to send a car into space?
No, way
Reality.
before that.
Way
before that. No, I don't understand that. I mean, I think if you're going into watching any action movie, there's going to be moments in pretty much every action movie which really stretches credulity, but you don't care because it's just fun, and you get swept
no,
up
there is
in
a
it.
line. The
I
art
don't
of
think
it
there is
is
a line.
there
Also,
has to be.
it being fun is subjective.
I mean, sure, but like the other thing for I guess Richard for yourself there is that you haven't adjusted the line properly because you haven't watched the 7 previous films. So if you'd watched the 7 previous films, your line would be in the correct place, and you wouldn't have felt like it was crossed.
I'm being unfair because the magnet stuff, although it was stupid,
It was awesome.
it was quite fun.
Yeah.
The bits that I don't like is everything else. I like it for the action, the you know, the action
Richard.
sequences are great. They're really enjoyable to watch, and you just think that's fucking stupid, but it was cool.
What about the 2 characters that know they're in a film?
Yeah, that was kind of fun, but I don't know.
I don't understand what possessed you to go and see this
if
movie.
the film
having
was
never seen
just
the
them,
previous ones.
the film should just be them. Actually, that would fix it.
Did you not like John Cena?
Because, no.
But you can't see him
rubbish.
whenever he's in the movie because you can't see John Cena, can you?
I love it. Just no.
The characters are rubbish, mate. They are, aren't they?
I love him.
I went into it. I think that's what disappointed me. I went into it thinking, "Oh, there's going to be some really great character progression. I'm going to see things. I'm thinking, oh, I wonder what that meant." And I didn't see anything like that. It's just so shallow.
You went into a Fast and Furious film expecting a good movie.
What? No, I didn't. But you know, it's got this heritage in it, and people talk about it being all about family. But really, that is just a throwaway marketing line. There's nothing in there
Exactly.
where anyone has any sort of relationship. There's nothing in it.
What about you know, Dom and Letty? What about Han coming back from the dead? I mean, God, you're heartless, man. You're heartless. So you wouldn't know who Han was. So you didn't
Yeah.
experience that. You don't know that.
No,
So-
but I knew he was dead, and I saw him come back, and I saw how everyone responded to him coming back, and it's like someone put a new coin in the arcade machine. Oh, I've got another life, have we? Brilliant. There's nothing more to it than that.
All right, I'm not going to win. I'm not going to convince you, heartless bastards. So I think it's time we moved on to the news.
You just don't want to hear more truths about your favourite movie franchise. That's what it is. You're running from the truth.
If
I'm
somebody
going to watch the rest of them.
If somebody said to me, no more Marvel movies or no more Fast and the Furious movies, I'd say, all right, we don't need the superheroes. We've already got the comics. So
lying.
that's fine. I'd just like move on.
You're lying.
Yeah, I could read a comic book, mate. They already exist. I don't need those. That's fine. Fast and Furious, however, only films. I'm keeping that.
You're a liar. You used to work in a comic book store, not a garage.
Right.
I could not put Fast and Furious movies in that no pile fast. I probably wouldn't let them finish. No more Fast and Furious movies, and it would be no more movies. It's fine. I'll have whatever the other thing is, please.
Neither of your opinions count. You've not seen them, so whatevs. Move on. You've got to see him before you judge. You've got to see him before you judge.
Opinion is forbidden.
I'm saying an opinion on something.
An
opinion on something that you haven't seen when it's a movie. Yes. You should not. You shan't have
a point here.
You need to see it.
Remember this moment, Rob, because I'm going to watch the rest of these movies, and then we're going to talk about them again.
All right, that sounds like some hate watching. And look, Richard, you've got Vin-style haircut, mate, as well. Like I'm saying, you're doing the Don Baldness thing really well.
So he's like my family now, is he?
He's your family.
Purely on that basis. That's probably a deeper connection than anything in the film.
Can we please start the news? Please.
Oh, it's fun shitting on things films that you enjoy.
Well, you've only seen 3 movies, Rob, so I mean, it's fine.
Hey, I've seen more
4
than
movies.
3
Sorry,
movies.
I forgot one. My bad.
I'm going to mention Glow quickly. We spent a lot of time on Fast and Furious. Glow season 3, really good. So go and watch that. I'm bummed that they've cancelled it.
It's so good they cancelled it. Yeah, there you go. Really good. Yeah.
Well, they cancelled it for COVID, like loads of other things, but
but loads of things didn't get cancelled as well. So anyway. Right. I like Glow. I shouldn't be dismissive. Glow first season is all I've seen, but it's very good. Right. Let's move on.
I'm tempted to try and derail you again there, but I'm
You're gonna just keep going. It's not so much. I'm not so much worried about me. I'm just worried about the poor people listening who are just like, for Christ's sake, can you talk about some video games, please?
Oh yeah, fair.
Please.
I forgot.
That was a fact. We apologise.
Sorry, guys. Sorry, guys. Video games.
Okay.
What about the news?
Let's do the news. We're going to just start off with some quick stories. So Assassin's Creed, there was like a leak, I should say. Around, Jason Schreier did his thing. 3 a.m. drop, 4 a.m. drop. Here's some sort of news that came out, and then Ubisoft kind of made it official, which is the future of Assassin's Creed is something called Assassin's Creed Infinity, which is going to be sort of around developing the game across multiple Ubisoft studios concurrently. And it seems like going forwards, Assassin's Creed is going to stop with the biannual or annual release platform and instead release as a game as a service. Think Destiny. So think a platform that will have things plugged into it that are going to be things in different time periods. So you might have a Renaissance Italy section, you might have some Viking stuff, but it's going to... I actually think this might work really well with Assassin's Creed because of that modern day overriding connective tissue. You could then go into the Animus, into different time periods, and then have, maybe obviously not as big environments as you would get from like a Valhalla, but segments and sections and areas in different time periods and stuff. So that could work. I think that could work for Assassin's Creed. Obviously, this is still quite a way off. This is early. This is them shifting development styles based off of COVID and working from home and the decentralized working model at Ubisoft. And I don't think this is necessarily a terrible idea. I think the idea of maybe, you buy that first release, $60, then subsequently, it's $30, that kind of thing. And they're plugging in into that overarching framework in the way we get a big expansion for Destiny every year, that kind of thing. With ongoing content drops and seasons of content. I can see that working. I think that's cool. What do you guys think?
It could make it more coherent, I guess, because that Animus stuff. I've never been deep into Assassin's Creed games. I've played a fair few of them, but not for very long. But the Animus stuff always feels to me like, well, why is this here? And it sort of just pops up at random, and you think, well, I was playing a medieval assassin game a minute ago. Why am I in a pod? And it's just weird, isn't it? So, I guess if that's the starting point and you've got kind of a hub world, so I get the tower will be like the lab, won't it? And then you'd branch off from there. So that they'd have a certain context attached to it now, rather than it just be this thing that appears periodically.
So that big corporation, that lab, Abstergo, right? So in the last 3 games, Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla, we've been focusing on this one character. I think her name's like Elena or something like that, who's been on the run. She was a scientist for Abstergo. She's been on the run, working with people who were connected to Desmond and stuff like that, to try and, you know, find out something, though it's quite hard to nail that down because, like you said, it's I don't know, more than 2 minutes, 20 minutes of gameplay every 30 hours. It's quite hard to actually keep that sort of meta narrative in mind. So I actually think this idea of a kind of a hub and that connective tissue to multiple timelines could be really beneficial for actually understanding that meta element of the game. It's weird though, I really like the meta element. A lot of people hate the modern day stuff in Assassin's Creed and find it completely superfluous to the enjoyment of the game. So Rob, I guess this is less interesting to you.
I absolutely despise the modern elements of Assassin's Creed. And they serve absolutely zero purpose.
I mean, they didn't. They certainly do now.
Well,
I mean, when it was Desmond, there was a reason, wasn't there? It actually kind of all came together, but it's a lot less clear cut now.
I'm not convinced by this, to be honest. But I thought the whole point was you had to go, different people went back through their DNA, because otherwise it's basically the reverse Adam and Eve, where every one of these assassins is all connected to one DNA line, which is just not possible.
Well, this is what I'm saying. The last 3 games, they've all been completely different, but they've all been coming from the same person going into the Animus. So I'm not even exactly sure how they've even justified that. And this is someone who's completed these games, and I still couldn't really tell you what's going on.
Because it used to be, you follow Desmond and he goes back because Altair is his ancestor, which is why he was there in the first place. And I think he had Ezio there as well, because shenanigans, of course. Now
and Connor. Don't forget Connor.
Oh,
sorry.
To go, suddenly you just go into anyone's memories? Really? Is that what we're going with? I'm alright. Pass.
So that was a quick news story. Well, obviously, we're going to find out a lot more about this as time goes on. It was definitely, they had to confirm this a lot sooner, I think, than they intended due to the leak. So there's not really much for them to share at this point. I think, based on the timeline, they've already said they're supporting Valhalla for an entire another year. First time they've ever done a whole second year of content for one of their games. So I think this thing is going to be end of 2023 at the earliest. So it's might even be later than that. So it's a long way out. We're going to find out more. I'm intrigued in the change of direction. Next tiny little story. This has come out of what's it called? WitcherCon? What do they call it? Is it WitcherCon?
WitcherCon.
It is WitcherCon. Which CD Projekt have just done. And hey, we didn't just make Cyberpunk. We've got another thing that people actually like. Netflix. That you like that too, don't you? But we're still doing stuff that you like, honest. And they kind of came out and said things around season 2 of The Witcher, and then they've also said, obviously reminded everybody that The Witcher 3's next gen enhancement is coming soon, later on this year. But we're going to get some TV show DLC for The Witcher 3, which is going to be free. Don't really know what that is, but it gives me an excuse. I'm waiting for that update because I've still not done Blood and Wine, which is arguably, most people would say, the best bit of The Witcher 3, the sort of the DLC that came out for it, the second piece of DLC, and I've still not done it. And it's meant to be gorgeous, so I'm waiting for the next gen enhancements to go back in and go to Toussaint, not easy to say, and check out those gorgeous visuals on enhanced Series X. So I'm quite looking forward to that with my Jerry DLC, which I can make my Witcher look like Henry Cavill. I hope that'll be fun.
As far as I understand,
out, mate. It's been out for ages.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, sorry, Rich. Yeah, you haven't actually played any Witcher 3, though, have you? Never played it? Is that all right? Yeah, never played it. Okay.
As far as I understand, Blood and Wine, it's the size of most RPG like open world games.
It's huge, yeah.
So
supposedly.
yeah, it is a game in itself. So I think you're in for a treat.
It's meant to be absolutely stunning, and it would be nice to play a CG Projekt Red game that is good. Is good and does run.
No, not even good, just functions.
Yeah, so I'm up for that. So I might get back in there at some point. But yeah, let's move on now to the bigger topics. I think Richard is leading us off with PlayStation State of Play that happened this week.
Yeah, so I watched this live the other night, purely by coincidence. I didn't plan it. We just put YouTube on in bed, and Sarah said, "What do you want to watch?"
Sounds romantic. I like it.
Yeah, and I said, "Oh look, there's a PlayStation show on now. Shall we watch that?"
And she left the room.
She probably
Yes.
went
I'll
to
sleep downstairs.
Yeah, she did tolerate it. She did tolerate it, bless her. But it was boring. And so I got her running commentary through it, and she does try to be interested if there's something half interesting on. There really wasn't in this, sadly. You can kind of see why PlayStation gave E3 a wide berth this year, because they don't have very much to show at all. I think post Ratchet and Clank, we're in for a slow year.
Anything stand out to you that you want to like pick out? I mean, there's a few in here I'll mention. Just because it looked weird and has a strange title, Fist or Fist, the one with the rabbit and the robot arm.
That looked pretty cool. So that was kind of side-on 2D platformer with more realistic than you would want rabbits in armor. It just looks a bit odd, doesn't it?
It looked like it was a hair's breadth away from being a good game.
Oh, God.
That was alright, that was okay.
Have you, Rob, because it reminded me of a comic book, have you ever read We 3 by Grant Morrison?
No.
Okay. Well, it looked a bit like that, which has got a rabbit in a suit of armour in it.
Huh?
So maybe it was inspired by that. Sifu still looking good, doesn't it? I mean, I'm really looking forward to that. That's by the guys that made Absolver. 2022.
Don't you think it looks a bit old? The running theme throughout this state of play was a bunch of stuff, admittedly indie, so you can't expect AAA values, but it all looked pretty last gen, with the exception of 2 or 3 titles. And it just felt completely out of time. Like the first thing that they showed was a PSVR game, and that's great that they're still supporting it, but is that what you want to open a show with? So they showed a sequel to Moss, which I think was well received, wasn't it, on PSVR? So Moss 2 is coming out.
I think it was well received because it was really early in the PSVR, and there wasn't really. It's pre-Astrobot, right? And Astrobot does 3D platform VR incredibly well, whereas I remember Moss being a bit like, all right, but no, I don't think anybody's ever like hankered after it, since, have they?
I've not heard people saying let's have Moss 2 now. But fine, I guess. But yeah, there wasn't very much else that was notable. And if it was good looking, it was in that's an interesting game rather than this is why I've bought a PlayStation 5. And that's the difference, isn't it? There's nothing in this show that made me think, I'm glad I spent all that time researching when I could get a PS5 in stock. I really need that now. Because there's nothing else coming out. I think the only thing that stood out to me, Lost Judgment looked pretty cool, which is the sequel to Judgment. It's a spin-off. No.
Okay.
I haven't played very much of the Yakuza series at all.
It's not part of the Yakuza
a spin-off.
Series. Yeah.
No, it's a spin-off from Yakuza, isn't it?
Kinda. It's not. It's not really. It's not related narratively. It's got a relation in location. But when it comes to characters and story, it's not really connected in really any way. So it kind of is its own thing, and it is on Xbox as well, Judgment now. So I think it's really good. It's worth checking out if you are put off by the depth of the Yakuza series, because there's so many. I think that's a good alternative if you're in the mood for that kind of style of game, I guess. But
well, I still haven't got through Like a Dragon, but yeah, Judgment would probably be the one I'd go to next after I finish that. But that looked okay. Looked really great visually, and it's got that typical wacky style that carries over from the Yakuza games, which is fun. Death Stranding was on the show, so there's a director's cut of that coming, which starts to form a theme, doesn't it? Because we've just seen Ghost of Tsushima has got a new edition coming, an enhanced edition that we're gonna have to shell out an extra 25 quid for if you already own the game, 70 quid if you don't. But it's not quite Xbox, is it, where we just get in these updates for free without any question. So Death Stranding is getting the director's updates. I think that's coming out later this year, but there wasn't any word on pricing or how it would fit with people who've already got the old one.
Yeah, there was. It's a 10 quid upgrade if you're going to PS5. I think it's important to remember, though, Richard, okay, that finally what we're getting with the director's cut of Death Stranding is the ability for Hideo Kojima to create the game he always wanted to create in Death Stranding and not be held back by Hideo Kojima's restrictions that he obviously put on himself for that original release. So we get his true artistic vision finally, Richard. I mean, come on.
It's
this is
mad,
important.
isn't it?
This is important to him. I wasn't being sarcastic at all, but there you go. It's fine. But yeah, I do think that is quite funny.
The most famous auteur in game design, Hideo Kojima, is now being released to, as you say, to.
Do you know what they should have called it instead of
vision?
You know what they should call it instead of the director's cut? Should have called it Death Stranding: The Snyder Cut. At least people would be interested then. even if Snyder's not involved, but you just call it from now on, a director's cut is just a Snyder cut, and it's just like, yeah, why not? People might actually give a crap. I mean, but it's put racing in it, so yay.
That'd be interesting if you got other game directors to jump in on other people's games. Like, what would a Death Stranding Yuji Naka cut look like? Like purple flying clowns in there. And
Do you know what I would play? The Hideo Kojima Call of Duty.
I don't even. They're just cutscenes. There's no gameplay. It's just soldiers like suffering from PTSD, just sitting in corners, crying. I don't even know. I don't even know. I mean, I like the look of another indie game, Jet: The Far Shore. I thought an indie game to do with focus on exploration, exploring a planet, and surveying it and looking at stuff, and not combat focused. Not even particularly character focused. Just it actually reminded me of that little game I looked at on PC. I did a preview of XO1. That kind of focus on vehicle and environment, which actually looks really chill and looks really nice. I think that looks really cool. And then they showed more Deathloop. So we've got a kind of related story to that, haven't we?
Yes, but I'm going to slightly backtrack a moment because the game I quite liked that they showed off was the Demon Slayer.
Oh yeah, sorry, me and Richard don't mean anything to us.
It means absolutely nothing to you guys,
sorry.
and that's fine. But that game I was quite impressed by. I'm really excited to look forward to that. It looks like a reproduction of the first series of the anime, just in game form, which looks really, really fun. They showed some more actual gameplay rather than pre-rendered stuff, so that looked really, really cool. I'm wearing a Demon Slayer related t-shirt today, for God's sake, so I'm very into that. So
I think
very excited to see that.
We've touched on Demon Slayer before on the podcast,
we have,
and I think
I thought you'd be into that.
It's one of those things which I think the thing you forget is that this is huge in Japan. Like, Demon Slayer is one of the largest things going in Japan right now. So obviously them having a video game adaptation of the TV show, that's massive. That's juggernaut.
Big news for them.
Yeah, that's huge for Sony. So no, fair play.
I just thought it'd look better, because
it's in the show style. It's basically the show is a slightly more anime version of that. That's more of a game version of the anime, if that makes sense. With the modelling and stuff like that, still using the same bold lines, the style of the water, all that sort of stuff. It's a very faithful reproduction with the art style.
The style looks fine, but just how it's rendered, it really doesn't look like it's pushing the new technology.
No, I would agree with you there. It doesn't look like it's exactly pushing things because of the quality of it. But I would hope it wouldn't be a 70 quid game on the PS5. I very much hope that fact. If it's even coming to PS5, I'm not sure, to be honest. I assume it's definitely coming to PS4, so we shall have to see.
And so like you said, Ben, it finished on Deathloop, a good old chunk of it as well, like an extended 8 or 10 minute segment of gameplay, which showed, for the first time for me at least, exactly what Deathloop is in play. And I think from the trailers that we've seen before, it certainly came across to me as if it was much more of a frenetic, action-focused title, divorced a bit from Arcane's previous output. Because although they're really well received, Arcane games are good. For me, they have a tendency to get bogged down in the stealth elements of them. And I was worried looking at this that's going to happen again. Obviously, you don't have to do all the stealth stuff. Arcane always give you the choice to go in guns blazing if you want. But I don't know. there's part of me that likes to get things done perfectly in a game if it's possible. Do you know what I mean? So if there's a way of going in and cleaning house and just coming out unscathed, I would like to be able to do that. But it just means that the game becomes so painstaking and slow that I don't last very long at the effort. And I worry that's going to be the same impact here.
Nobody can claim you're imperfect at doing the game if there's no one left alive.
That's true.
Sure.
That's very much my strategy in stealth.
Kill them all. Kill them all.
The thing is,
raise alarms or ruin records if they're not there.
I think the thing is though, the Dishonored games judge you on that. So if you've gone in guns blazing, although that's the most fun way to play the game, it does tell you off for having done that.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to have to worry about this in Deathloop because it's run based, so it's a case of just if you fuck up, do it again, and that's actually part of the game design, which in a way is pretty smart if you think about it. Is that they expect you to go in and fail, do a new loop, and actually use that knowledge to improve subsequent attempts through and stuff. I'm really curious because they keep showing off the same kind of section, don't they? They got the enemies with the wolves masks, right? We've seen that repeatedly now, and I'm curious as to the actual scope of the world, how big the actual game is, and how much it's all going to connect and stuff. I feel like they've not shown that. So I am more interested now after seeing this 10 minutes because I actually like the look of the gunplay a bit more. I think it looks a bit, like you said, more action focused. And I think that's more how I like to play Dishonored, which was not so stealthy. The idea that you might start an encounter stealth, but then it goes bad and then you go guns blazing, kind of same way I played Wolfenstein games. I think, we're not all perfectionists like you, Richard, so let the blood flow.
You make a good point. Because it's based on runs, I don't have to worry about getting it right this time. It's all about getting better and better each time, isn't it? So I think maybe they recognise that within their previous games that's kind of a shortfall, and they're making a strength of it. Hopefully, sounds interesting.
So that goes to Rob, who has a follow-up story.
Indeed. So the PlayStation 5 timed exclusive Deathloop, which of course we've just been talking about, isn't going to hit Xbox till at least September 2022. From what I've read online, it looks like it was going to be a timed exclusive anyway, but it was going to go to a Windows release after that fact, or they hadn't 100% confirmed either way. But now, of course, we're getting it on Xbox. It will come to Game Pass. The day that it's not timed exclusive, it will hit Game Pass, without a shadow of a doubt.
I think this is a weird story in a way, because it's a non-story, but it's now a story because of what's happened with Bethesda. So exactly. It's like... It was like you said, it was always a timed exclusive anyway, but I think now we have more information on that than we normally would this far out. So that means that Xbox Pro. I don't know where this story came from, but I would not be surprised if it was from Microsoft, or Xbox, if they leaked it or what. I don't know if it was official or whatever, but they want people to know that if you're cool with waiting, we'll have this. Sadly the deal was already done, but we're going to get this as soon as we possibly can. And I've already seen online a lot of people saying we'll see how it's received and stuff, but I'll just wait for Game Pass. A lot of people saying that because it'll be Game Pass PC as well, I suspect. So it's going to be a huge amount of the market which will be able to pick it up next September. And it doesn't scream the kind of game you have to get straight away unless this thing hits 9s and 10s. I'm pretty comfortable in just chilling and waiting on it, even if I had a PS5, but there's so few games that make me go, I've got to get a PS5. But then same for a Series X, really, isn't it, at the moment? So you can't be too harsh on anybody in that regard.
Can't throw too many stones in a house mostly made of glass.
Very true, very true, very true, sir.
It's a different proposition though with Xbox. I know we're diverting a bit, but people don't buy a Series X because of all the new games. They buy it because it makes all their old games better without charging any money for it.
That point.
It definitely does. Yeah. No, I mean, this PlayStation thing, I think we talked about this last week as well. It's just every week now it just seems more and more painful. The upgrade path and the actual how it is get games working on the PS5 and which ones do and which ones don't, and it's just bad. Just bad.
Bigger and bigger financial leap every time.
I think we should move on now to the big story of the week, the really, really big story of the week. For its omission as well as its inclusion of information here. And that is, Nintendo came out and revealed its new iteration on the Switch hardware. The long rumored, long anticipated, open secret that was a new Nintendo Switch. And this is titled the Switch OLED. And that should pretty much tell you everything you need to know, because the only real improvement here is the inclusion of an OLED screen on the front of the Nintendo Switch. And by that I mean there are some other bits. They've improved the kickstand, which I know excited Richard greatly. They've added
First thing I said, wasn't it? First thing when this was announced, I was slagging it off, saying hasn't even got an improved kickstand. Oh, it has. I must have one.
It has a network port, a LAN port now in the base station as well in the dock, so you can actually connect it wired.
Which you can buy separately if you would like to, for some reason.
Oh, you can buy the dock separately. Yeah,
I believe,
yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you can. Yeah, and that makes sense. So you can give your old Switch the ability to wire connect.
The original dock is available separately, so you can plug it into multiple TVs if you've got TVs across your house.
Yeah,
sure. That's a good idea.
But yeah, the fact that
worth the money.
The fact that the dock didn't have a network port, I mean, what the hell is that anyway? But okay.
Yeah.
And then
it had an optional one. There's an optional one.
But not built in. I think you can have an adapter. It's a USB adapter, isn't it?
Yeah.
But and then an additional, we've gone from 6.2-inch screen to a 7-inch screen. It's slightly larger, takes up the same space on the unit. Well, it takes up a larger space on the unit, but it's the same unit size. So the bezel is now reduced. It's a little bit heavier. Big deal. I mean, it's still a 720p resolution screen. It's not even a bumped up resolution on the screen. There's nothing. The most important thing here to bear in mind is that there's no internal changes in this unit. There's no improved RAM. There's no improved CPU. I think it's got slightly larger storage internal, 64 gig.
Nope.
It is. It's 64 gigabytes now, isn't it? And it was 32 on the original.
That's right, I think.
Yeah. So I mean, that's nice, but it's not faster. It's not quicker. It's not going to deal with the games that are already struggling to run on this unit that have been ported over from better hardware. Doom, Witcher, Minecraft struggles on this console. So what do we think about all this? So the rumors were true, but they weren't quite true in the same way. Is this chip shortages? Is this... What, are we going to see another upgrade in a year's time? What do we think is going on here?
I don't think we should be surprised. I think this is traditional for Nintendo to put out cosmetic changes and keep the core hardware very similar, if not exactly the same. So even from a generational standpoint, the Wii was the same hardware as the GameCube. It didn't progress in any way, did it? So when you're talking intergenerational changes, it isn't surprising that they haven't really done much here. I think the last time they did was the new 3DS, wasn't it? That got a slight performance bump. But I suspect that was just down to what chips were available rather than them wanting to make it any better, because it really was not a significant improvement.
I think it was with that improvement, I think half a dozen games were, this only works on the new 3DS.
But that was a marketing
3DS
thing.
Games.
I think anything would have worked on both. And you could see that there was a frame rate difference in a few games, but it's not like stuff couldn't work. I don't think there was anything in Xenoblade Chronicles, which was the main exclusive for a new 3DS. There was nothing in that couldn't run on the old 3DS. It wasn't particularly
the 3D mode
advanced.
The 3D mode.
The old 3DS was still 3D.
Yeah, he's
3D.
Talking about, it's confusing, right? So there was a 3DS, and then there was one called the new 3DS.
Yeah.
Which, I know, Rob, I know. I think they thought, oh, this is what iPhone does, right? This is what Apple's doing. We'll do that. No, please don't do that. it's bad.
My apologies.
Confusing as all hell. I know, because I was researching this for the story. I was like, what the hell? Why did they call it that?
So weird.
Yeah, I mean, cosmetic changes is a thing. I think we'll rally back to this in a bit with our topic for the week. But what are we feeling about this? Right, $309.99 over what I think they're going for about $280 current Switches at the moment.
And it's always been $280. That's what it launched at.
So 30 quid.
My view on this is the biggest meh in the world. There's nothing here particularly astounding. There's no huge amounts of changes. It's if you don't have a Switch, didn't get one during like the Animal Crossing craze in lockdown, that sort of thing. It's a good time to want to buy a Switch, but beyond that, not interested.
So for me, the thing is, all they would have needed to do is if they turned around and gone, this is a 1080p screen, well, on OLED, I'd have probably picked that up, right? But the fact is, the OLED screen is going to be lovely. It's going to look great. It's going to look vibrant. It's going to have really good contrast. It's going to look just beautiful. But it's still only a 720p resolution. I mean, I can't bring myself to buy a new Switch just for that. If it had been 1080p, and therefore probably required a little bit of a horsepower upgrade internally, I'd have been there. I'd have been there for it. But the limitations is the hardware. It's the processor on a chip. It's the whole thing that everything is this NVIDIA architecture inside. And it's like, if they're going to make an upgrade, it needs to be substantial and therefore be expensive. And I do think that's what they were going to do. I do, and I think stuff has happened that's made the availability at a good price for this hardware to actually improve the internals has made it really difficult in the last year or so. So that's why we're now getting this very underwhelming mid-generation improvement that isn't really doing much.
That would suggest that Nintendo want to make money on their consoles. Because Microsoft recently, I think it was about 2 months ago, said, we'd never make money on consoles.
Yeah, Nintendo do.
We're not interested in it.
Nintendo always do.
Yeah, they've always
must be the fact they want to hold on to that feature, that fact.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I think Microsoft and Sony are willing to take that loss. Nintendo are not. And I do think that speaks a lot to their rigid business model that we've often seen. They stick to their guns. They do things. Nintendo do things the way Nintendo does things, right? And they will not change for anyone. Be it their archaic online systems, be it their litigation, overly litigating kind of mannerisms in a world in which streaming is so beneficial to many platforms as a marketing tool. Nintendo is just like, nah, it's our way. Well, you can off. It's kind of like that's just Nintendo. It's always been their way, but it's their strength as well, isn't it? Sometimes, Rob, when you're a big Nintendo fan, and they stick, they do the things their way, and that gets good games.
I'm a big Pokemon fan, and Pokemon happens to be on Nintendo. I don't really go for the Mario games very often, all that sort of thing. The other franchises, I basically just play Pokemon. But you always know that you're getting a good piece of kit with a Nintendo console that isn't just a slightly alternate version of the other one, because there is no other one with Nintendo. They've carved themselves out a nice little niche in the market because they were always handheld. Yes, they've now got the Switch, which then docks to the TV and stuff like that, but it was always that thing that you could take your 3DS, your Game Boy, whatever, on the go with you, which was always the attractive thing for Nintendo about me. I always bought Nintendo hardware when I needed upgrades, which I'm sure we'll discuss more on the topic in a few minutes. But for this, I don't think this was worth it. I really don't. If they changed it to 128 gig internal storage, then maybe, but doubling what was there, really?
You still need more on top of that.
Exactly.
Anyway, don't you?
I would say I'd say storage isn't the biggest issue on the Switch. The games are small. Like, I think the biggest game is only like 4 or 5
It
gigs.
depends whether your game collection is
Huge.
wide or not.
Sure.
Or if it's all digital, like mine.
Okay, fair enough. No, I guess I don't buy a lot of games on Switch. To be honest, the only time I buy a game on Switch is if it's something that's in a sale. I'm pretty much never buy a new game now.
I bought Hades on Switch. On Christmas Day, just gone. I bought Hades.
Yeah, it's the last time I bought a new game, but I think I got that on sale as well. I think I got it for like 25% off when I bought it. But so, like, what would they have needed to have done to make you interested?
I think the screen resolution itself isn't a problem for me. I was playing on my Switch yesterday, looking at it and thinking, actually, that does look pretty sharp. It's still a small screen for 720p. It looks fine. But the letdown is that in docked mode, it's not going to look any better. That would have been nice, wouldn't it? If we could have a 4K mode if it was docked.
Double the health of the battery.
You'd have liked a better battery.
double, specifically double.
It's so short. I think I when I was playing Fire Emblem Three Houses, I think that's what it's called, isn't it? I think I got at best about 2.5 hours on a full charge before that thing was like, I'm dying.
Well, that's an argument not to increase the resolution in handheld mode, isn't it? But in docked, there's really no reason.
Yeah, but the whole thing.
4,310 milliamp per hour battery. I would have wanted at least a 10,000 milliamp per hour battery, because that was always the big problem with the Switch. Is you play it for like an hour and a half, 2 hours in handheld, but the battery's mostly dead now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the whole thing needs. I mean,
my DS's would last for a day. Of constant play. Granted, there's a significantly bigger hardware drain on the battery for 720p. Completely fair, completely understood. Then beef the battery up.
I think this
so it can do that day of play.
This speaks to a lot about people use the Switch in very different ways. I pretty much exclusively play with it handheld. I almost never play with it plugged into it like on a monitor. So because of that, I'm really using it like a on the go console, and therefore that battery is really important. But I think yes, I want that better resolution, but I also want a battery that's going to be better. So obviously that would need to be boosted up. And look, the games don't run great, especially multi-platform ports, right? So stuff that's coming from other consoles, like the Doom games and stuff like that, and Witcher and stuff like those games, and even their own games, the exclusives and stuff. They have really low. They have very low frame rates at times. Like really
Link's
poor
Awakening is famously poor frame rate, isn't it?
So even if those guys can't get it optimized for the hardware, you need to upgrade this hardware. Like this needs beefing up if you want it to be taken seriously. But I guess Nintendo also know they've got a huge market in kids, and frame rates. Who gives a shit?
Taken seriously by who though, Ben?
That's it.
Because I think what they're doing, they've done this for a long time. They target the lowest common denominator in terms of technology. Has everyone got a 1080p TV? Pretty much yes at this point. Not everyone's got 4K, so they ain't going to go after it.
Also going to point out that it wasn't mainly kids in that trailer. It was mainly people of our age in that trailer. So
not my age.
The bracket. So they're not aiming it at kids.
So yeah, that's a counter, isn't it?
Who've been playing Mario for 30 years and want to play the next Mario.
How well do you guys think it's going to sell in a world in which people are struggling to get hold of the Series X's and the PS5? So those people are going to instead pick up this new OLED Switch?
No, people will get it as well. I mean, I'll probably buy one. I was initially bummed out that there wasn't much change, but honestly,
just for the
I showed it to Sarah just to see what her reaction to it was, because whenever a new console comes out, she's like, "Oh, that's the next thing I've got to buy you, is it? That's what I'm getting at Christmas." And because she's really good, she tends to get me a console at Christmas if there's one out. And I was like, well, I wasn't really thinking about it, but she's like, well, why not? It looks really nice. And she was actually impressed with it. I thought, well, maybe I should have it then.
Like you said earlier,
it does look good.
Like you said earlier, Richard, lowest common denominator, yeah?
No, but it does look nice. The problem is it doesn't look too much nicer. I think I'll value a bigger screen. I'll value a brighter screen. And I like the kickstand. I actually used the Switch kickstand the other day, or I tried to, and it was terrible. And I thought, how have they not fixed this? And it was only a couple of days later they mentioned they revealed the OLED model. I thought, yes, actually, that fixes a problem I've just had. Maybe it's worth getting one. Not that I use a kickstand very much, but
I'm not going to spend 310 quid on a bendy bit of plastic.
It's a massive indulgence, it really is.
Yeah.
But if you've got money lying around and you fancy treating yourself,
thing is, if you want to, go for it.
Well, yeah, we're going to come around your house and be like, break your legs or something. You're doing what? You're buying a Switch, not a watch. I tell you what, I will be getting this month instead of a Switch. I'm going to get myself a Playdate. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah,
so,
that's an interesting one.
Oh, you're going
isn't it?
out and meeting a friend, a play date? Oh no, you're talking about the stupid thing with a crank.
I want to play my crank. Baby.
Pre-orders come out this month, and that is a genuine consideration in my mind. If I was going to choose one or the other, what would it be?
Playdate.
And if I had to choose, it would be Playdate, just for something different.
Rob's like, you fucking twats. You hipster douchebags. And that's fair.
What are you going to do? Sit there going... dee-dee-dee.
Yes, you will see me at my place of work, Rob, doing exactly that.
And you will see me sat there in having a
Laughing.
much nicer time on a Switch.
Well, not when your battery runs out, but anyway. So
Well, I can't sit there for... I don't have a 2.5-hour lunch break, Ben. So it won't
Really?
run the battery down.
Right, so let's in like a little bit of funny news here. Connected. So there was a trailer. They put out a video for the Switch, didn't they? In which now there's a man in it being memed hard for playing his Switch in the hallway because you couldn't wait to get to the living room. Those 5 extra steps was too long to hold on to your Switch crave. You got to do it. But then in related news, PlayStation had to pull one of their new adverts this week because, well, it's interesting because I've had this conversation with people where they've asked me which way up does the PlayStation 5 go, the disc model, because people really...
Horizontal.
Yeah, well, because it's...
Horizontally, not vertically.
No, yeah, which way? Well, no, even that, like, it's not clear necessarily how to do it. And in this advert, they had the PlayStation 5 upside down with the disk drive at the top of it horizontally, and they then pulled the ad because probably not the best thing to put in an official advert. How to break your disc and your machine. But yeah,
maybe it's like a throwback to the PS1, like an Easter egg for people who had to turn it upside down to get it working.
I don't know, but it's funny. It's just like, how are we designing hardware? You don't have that problem with the Xbox, do you? It's just a giant brick, and it's like it will stand basically whichever way you want it to. Just don't put it on its big fan exhaust, which you can't really
miss. It also
miss
has specifically little rubberized feet.
It does, doesn't it? It does have little feet. Yeah, but saying that, the PlayStation 5, you have to use a stand even horizontally, right? And that stand will only go in one way. So I'm not sure how when they set dressed that advert they didn't realise that, because it only works one way. A lot of people
don't use the stand. A lot of people don't use that stand even vertically. No, it does. No, I think it does stand on its own. It's just not meant to because it slides about.
Great. Well, good design, guys?
It's poor design.
Oof. The whole thing.
It's like trying to work out which way up a sandwich goes. You know, there isn't.
Which way do I eat this?
So how do you make your sandwiches? What do you go first? Sauce? Like your moisture, whatever that is. Then what do you do? Meat, or do you guys do veg first? I'm curious now.
Veg first. Sandwiches, not burgers.
Oh, you don't put a little bit of roughage in your sandwich? Not a little bit of lettuce in a sandwich? No? Just meat.
If I'm making a toasty, which is arguably a warmed sandwich, then I will... Yes, then it's ham and cheese. I'm not going to put lettuce in there.
No, you wouldn't put that in a toasty. No, I agree.
Exactly.
100%. No. That would be weird. Hot lettuce. Grim.
Tuna and cheese toasty. You put the cheese on, put the butter on first, then the cheese. Tuna on top of that. Butter the other bread, put that on top. Then turn it upside down so the cheese melts through the tuna.
Sounds good. Good strats. Solid.
What about putting the tuna on first, then putting the cheese on top? And
then you don't.
No, because the way I put the cheese on, I put it on so it covers every sliver of bread. Exactly. So you've got to map it all out properly. Get the cheese all laid out like Tetris. It's like playing Tetris when I do it.
Richard uses a set square when making his sandwiches. This is very important.
It's got to be just right.
He's got like one of those levels. He sets it on the top, just making sure it's even. Yeah, he's a precise man. He's a precise man. So in related news, and we're going to do this now. We're going to have a topic. We're going to talk about mid-generation, our favourite and our worst mid-generation hardware improvements, or not improvements, as it were. So how long until we get an iteration of the PS5 that isn't garbage? Guess.
Well, surely there has to be games for a PS5.
No, I think they can totally redesign that hardware within 18 months of now. I think that's good. By the end of next year, we will have a new version of the PS5 that isn't as crap looking.
I don't think so.
I reckon the most you're going to have is different colour side panels.
Exactly. They'll go through that first.
Yeah, because they did the whole thing where someone was offering that as a service, and then Sony trademark sued them into the ground.
Yeah.
So they clearly want to do that themselves.
So let's talk then. Let's talk about a topic. And who wants to go first with their favourite, the mid-generation upgrade that they appreciated the most or have the fondest memories of? Who wants to go first?
Uh,
It's got to be the One X, right?
The
but I
beefy
think that's
power boost.
the One X and the PS4 Pro. I think are the only real, maybe the 360 Elite, but that's tenuous. What could be viewed as anywhere being half decent. A 3DS XL, that's just an XL. That's the
What did
3DS.
what did the Elite do? Wasn't it just a bigger hard drive?
Yes, bigger
Yeah,
hard
and
drive,
reliability.
slightly different vents. Because I had one.
I
And
had one
touch
too, but I
button.
can't remember. It was just the hard drive, pretty much, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a 500 gig hard drive inbuilt, I think, that you could remove.
Yeah, and I know they jigged about with the chipset, so it caused some issues with compatibility going forward, didn't it? So I think GTA 4 didn't work on a original 360 properly, but it worked really well on an Elite, even though they're the same basic performance.
Yeah, so I mean, this isn't just. I'm not. I don't think we should consider it from a horsepower perspective, because obviously there's been some
Yeah.
fairly radical redesigns of hardware inside of generations. And re-released SKUs that have had. I think that, for example, talking about the 360, I think the 360 had 4 or 5 iterations by the end of that cycle. Absolutely loads of different. And it ended up.
Yeah.
Do you guys ever see that the last 360 that looks a lot like an Xbox One? Do you
Yes.
remember that? And it was really weird looking, isn't it? You think about where that generation started with the Inhale and the white with the removable hard drive on the top/side, depending on how you got it aligned, with removable faceplates, and then it ends up looking like a small VCR by the end of that generation. Like complete design shift, like so different, as a beast, as it were. But and then you look at that amazing. I still think one of the coolest redesigns ever, PS2 Slim. To go from that fairly large box to that, it's painfully small. You feel like it's going to break when you pick it up, the PS2 Slim. It's so small.
Yeah, it's cool.
Very
Strong
impressive.
as your grip.
Like a vice.
It was tiny, though.
I think that was the only
little thing.
PlayStation 2 I had. Did not feel like I was going to break it if I picked it up. It just felt like a console.
Okay, I guess it's because I had experience with the previous and stuff like that as well.
Yeah.
And then the PS1, which obviously went from that very boxy look to the very rounded little device that was barely wider than the control ports that were sat on the front of it. Do you remember that as well? This tight, it looked like a, I don't know how you describe this. All the edge, every edge was sanded down to an annoying curve. It was very much a design aesthetic of that era, and it was almost exactly the size of the disc. It was so tiny. It looked almost like a portable CD player, didn't it? In the end.
Yeah, like a little Discman.
Yeah, crazy. But I think for me,
As a horsepower aside, though,
Yeah.
you've got to give props to the Game Boy Advance SP.
yes, that's it. That's my one. That's my choice.
So good.
That's my choice. I took my SP with me everywhere. I lived on that console because the guts are exactly the same when it comes to the horsepower, but the redesign of that unit, adding in the backlight, making it clamshell, making it incredibly portable, and just you could throw it in any bag, any pocket, any time. It's rugged, hard wearing, reliable, great battery life, and then some incredible games. The GBA had some of the best games ever on a handheld.
And it echoed the design of the original Game Boy as well, which is a really important thing because the original GBA was nothing like a Game Boy as we knew it. It was fine, but the GBA SP came out and it's like, oh, this actually looks like a Game Boy as well, and it's loads better. It was such a good console. That
amazing, wasn't it? Did you ever play on the Micro?
No.
That was a bizarre choice. So that was the GBA version that was basically the size of one of the GBA cartridges, and it had all the guts, but it was this big, this big, and it went landscape again instead of portrait, right? So the screen came back into the middle, but the screen must have been 3 inches, 2 or 3 inches. It was absolutely minuscule. I don't really understand the use for it. I don't know many people that. I think I had one just for the sake of it for a little while, but I don't think I ever used it. It was just pointless. It was so tiny, but incredible that they were able to shrink everything down to that level and still play the games in the same way that they were intended. But yeah, the GBA is still kind of that whole family is to me the pinnacle of Game Boy design. And I think obviously the DS went, and then we had the DS Lite, and then the 3DS and stuff like that, and they've been really good. But for me, they're not Game Boys. They got away from that naming convention. I would love Nintendo to bring Game Boy back in some way. Personally, I'd be so stoked if they did that. But yeah, the SP is my all-time favorite mid-generation shift. Yeah. So what favorites? Rob, you've been quite quiet.
I don't really have a favourite, to be honest. Most of my mid-generation shifts... No. Most of my mid-generation shifts have all been out of necessity. Like, I got one of the shifted Xbox 360 because my other one broke, so I needed to replace it. I got a 3DS XL because my DS was being naff with its battery life and it was big, so I got a 3DS XL.
You're never turned on by the features of a mid-generational change. It's just you've got to get a new one, and that's what there is.
Yeah, the only kind of thing that would be relevant is the Xbox One X. And that's the only one that's really been impactful for me.
Did you do that out of necessity, or was that a choice because you wanted the...
That was more out of choice, because I was financially solvent enough at that point, really, to make my own choices in that regard. So it's... Yeah, that was mostly just... I've got a 4K TV now, because I bought a 4K TV, so now I can do 4K things. Yay, 4K.
That's interesting. I wonder how unusual we are, Ben, because I think both you and I would tend to upgrade even when there's not much in it for us.
Oh yeah, many times.
Even you're drawing the line at a Switch OLED, it seems, but
yeah, well, we'll see. I'm saying that now, but you know what I'm like. I mean, give it a few months. But
there's quite a lot of upgrades I've gone for. So the DS Lite was another one which you've mentioned. That was great. That was kind of like the GBA SP equivalent in terms of an upgrade to the DS. The original DS is awful.
I never had the DS. I just had the DS Lite, and then I went to the 3DS.
Let's talk about that DS. That's some of the worst design Nintendo's ever done. I mean, that is an ugly... It feels like a prototype. It feels like something that you'd see at a game show, padlocked to a booth babe, if we're talking about the right era, because I think that's when they were doing that, Nintendo, by the way. For real. They actually had... When they were at shows, they would have consoles padlocked to the women that were holding them. But that it's a different time. It's a different time, Rob.
Or was it women padlocked to the console?
I feel like they were... I imagine those women felt trapped in many ways. So in that situation. But anyway, so that thing is so ugly. It's the mismatched top to bottom. They're not even the same dimensions. Do you remember that? So one was like a bit smaller. It had like weird... curved edges. It was humongous. The thing was massive. You could hit someone in the head with that and kill them, like really easy.
Like a really badly made sandwich.
Back to the to the sandwiches. We've got to think, are we all waiting for lunch? I think that's what it is. We're hungry. We're thinking about sandwiches a lot. But that, and then when the light came out, it was like, oh my, this is it. This is what it should have been in day one. This is what the hardware should have looked like.
Light and day.
It was like light and day. Yes. Very good, Rob. Very good. I hate you. But no, it's a beautiful iteration on that hardware. Absolutely stunning. And I thought that was a very smart move. One I think on here that doesn't get a lot of credit is the 2DS. I actually had a 2DS, right? And I really like
it. For 4-year-olds.
I really liked it. I really like the industrial design of it. I think the look of it, this sort of wedge-shaped thing that's not clamshell.
Managed to chew through your 3DS. You spilled all your Farley's rusks on it. You thought, I need that 2DS design.
I think there was also a money element that was motivating me at the time, which was I think I wanted to play. I wanted to play some 3DS games, but I'd gotten rid of the 3DS at that point for whatever reason. I was like, I want to play some of these specific games. I was able to pick up a 2DS cheap. The only difference being it didn't have the 3D, which, let's be honest, nobody used anyway. So you'd usually turn that off as the first thing you do when you play a game because it was horrible.
I did.
You like 3D and 3DS? Do you?
It's good.
If you say so.
It's still impressive now.
Yeah. I mean, it's impressive technology, but it's not fun to use. It's just awkward, and you've got to sit in that exact sweet spot, or it doesn't quite work.
No, you haven't. Not on the new 3DS, you don't.
Well, I guess I've not tried new Nintendo 3DS, which was the subsequent iteration of the 3DS, which included some extra hardware, which we were alluding to earlier. So that's improved, is it? The 3D on that, is it?
Yeah, it's got eye tracking, so you can turn it around and it still knows what it should tailor the vision to, depending on your angle. It's really good.
Wow, that is impressive. But clearly, that was taking advantage. Well, it was basically the 3DS was the DS with this 3D element. There wasn't as much of an obvious change in the style of that console. And now 3D is kind of like, whatever, nobody cares anymore. We went through that phase and we're out the other side, which is probably for the best with 3D, isn't it? But I think to go back to what Rob was saying about the 1X and the 1S, I think less so the 1S, but the 1X especially, and the PS4 Pro, that was an interesting one, wasn't it? Because when we went from the original Xbox to 360, that was the generational shift in which we went, right, so these new consoles are HD. So the 360 and the PS3, that's 1080, that's a 1080p up, resed console. That's why we're making that shift. Obviously, when 4K came around, it kind of happened at this awkward point. So to take advantage of it, they brought out these consoles that were able to do that with certain games. And I think, let's all be honest, that Xbox One originally was under-spec'd. So they were able to step it up to where it kind of should have been in the first place a bit. And then a bit more on top. And that's where we got the 1X. And I think that's the first time we've seen big proper console releases in that mid-generation where it was actually really beneficial to the actual experience of the game. And I know I certainly upgraded to my PS4 Pro as well for no other reason. It certainly wasn't a broken PS4. And both the PS4 Pro and the 1X had a real impact on your experience and were very positive, weren't they, in that regard? So
yeah, but you're right. They wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for television technology moving on when it did.
Yeah. I think it's just that timing of where 4K landed. It was also, let's remember that generation went on kind of a long time as well. Went on longer than many expected, and then was even longer because of the COVID situation and all of that. And yeah, so yeah. So when do we? I'm saying we're getting a redesigned look of the PS5 18 months from now, not hardware shift, just the look. Can we expect? Are you guys expecting us to have to do a Series X bump and a PS5 bump in hardware in 3-4 years time, or do you think we won't be seeing that this time around?
I hope not.
What do you think? I mean, 8K. Do we care? Do you think is that going to be a big deal for people? And
we're already there though.
Years,
these are 8K capable machines technically. I mean, you can talk about what sort of games might be possible to run at 8K, and there probably wouldn't be very much, but both consoles are HDMI 2.1. They can output at 8K if they want to.
What else could lead to a mid-generational upgrade requirement that you
storage frustration?
Well, that's a thing, isn't it? You might see. I don't think, again, if you got a storage upgrade, it wouldn't be anything else. So I don't think you could call that. I mean, we saw that a lot in the 360 generation, didn't we? Continuous upgrades.
Yeah, they frequently bring out new bundles with different hard drive sizes. Yeah,
that happened.
I've been expecting them to do more storage expansion cards
at a higher capacity.
High capacity, 2, 3, 5 terabyte.
Well, they've said different manufacturers as well. You can only get the Seagate one at the moment, but they've said that other people will be bringing them out, presumably in different sizes too.
God, I hope so, because what we could do is some competition to bring the price down. Flippin' heck.
Yeah.
180 quid is the best I've seen on that Seagate expansion on Amazon. That's literally as cheap as I've seen it get.
It's just a double of space of what you've got. It's not even for more space. It's just, if it was like a 3 terabyte update, that'd be brilliant.
I also think it's going to be the problem is one slot, right? Because if you're and do we want to get back to memory card management? That's kind of where we're at with this. It does seem like a step back that we're having to transferring files between things.
Having USB hard drives, which is how we obviously all handled it beforehand, it's basically just really big memory card management.
Exactly, because we haven't got a really big memory card in terms of SSD. You do end up having to swap it ultimately, don't you?
I do feel like I should be
we will.
counting up to 256 blocks, like back in the day. Do you remember all of that? Oh my
I
word.
remember going on the memory interface on PlayStation. It had the little logos or the little animations that would spin round and do things that were unique to each game. They were good fun.
It's that trade-off, isn't it? We want these high-performance consoles. They require this particular memory architecture. I mean, we're complaining about the Seagate card at the moment, but man, PS5 doesn't even have that, and PS5 only has 800 odd actual usable gigabytes internal storage. So if you have that digital solution, you're just playing do-si-do with that USB drive that's real slow all the flipping time.
It's less than that, mate. I think it's 600 odd.
Well, you've got one. I thought I remember reading it was 8, but if you're saying 6, wow, lucky you.
600.
3 Call of Duties, and you're done. So, like, Christ.
This also speaks to a big problem in games, is that with examples like Call of Duty, 150 gigabyte size install packages, at some point we have to draw a line and turn around and go, yeah, the consoles aren't going to be able to accommodate more than 2 of these. You know, it's a huge then onus on the console owner to then either have another space to move it all around to, or re-download it every time, or move it around and all the updates.
I think
that needs to be calmed down a little bit.
What we saw with Call of Duty, but I don't think it's far enough, is the ability to install different elements of the game. The single player, the multiplayer, the battle royale, and therefore you don't have to have the whole package installed all at once. I think that kind of architecture and that kind of smart management of storage needs to improve and continue, and where it's like levels or something even more granular,
like a core mechanic concept, and then just campaign.
Yeah, but even smaller and smaller and smaller, and that it's using what we might see with xCloud is that sort of smart streaming management of the game and stuff. Because storage is just going to get worse. That situation is just going to get worse and worse and worse.
Have fact checked 667.2 gigabytes of usable space on the PlayStation 5. In your terabyte hard drive, you get just over half.
It's not a terabyte hard drive. That's the problem.
That's because it's an 8.2. That's where the 8 number came from, isn't it? Because that's the size of the drive. Yeah, so it's not.
Yeah.
They had some weird. It's weirdly bespoke, and I think Mark Cerny made some excuse about that's to do with making it fast. I don't know.
Right.
It was some crap. It's like, why is it so weird? A weird number. God damn it, that's small. God damn, that's small. But no, I that's mind blowing. But I think 3-4 years we'll get another one. I think we can just expect it now. It's just going to be this run on continuous. It's like phones, isn't it? That's where we're headed. That's the future of the way hardware is going to be supported. And Xbox seems to have it right. It's all about forward compatibility. So your games will continue to work, and you'll still be able to play the new ones using things like the magic of xCloud. And I can't wait to see how they pull that off with something like Microsoft Flight Sim. So I'm going to definitely try and run Flight Sim on my One X and see what it's like and how they do it. I'm really curious as to how the hell that's going to work. So I think that's the end of the topic. And I will say I do apologise, been a bit lax with our Game Pass Club, our picks, and our actually staying on top of this. We did not have one for you this week. I am sorry. We have, however, selected a new game that's coming out later this week, Blood Roots, which looks fun, and we will be talking about that collectively in 2 weeks' time. That is a Experience Kills Promise, so we'll be back with that shortly, I promise. Okay? We're all good with that, guys? We're all agreed? You haven't changed your minds?
Indeed.
Just checking. Because I suggested the vampire strategy game, and Richard nearly killed me. So we're not doing it.
You didn't suggest it. You told me I was playing it. So you know what happens when you do that.
I just trying to help. I was just trying to help.
I went into a massive assault.
Choice
didn't I?
Choice makes life difficult. So if you remove choice, then things get done.
You're sounding a little bit like a dictator there.
Only a little? Oh, I was going full dictator. Damn it. Right, so let's talk about...
I added dictator.
I want to talk to Richard about one game, and then I definitely want to talk to Rob about another game. So Richard, let's talk about Doki Doki Literature Club Plus, which is not the easiest to say title in the world. No spoilers, right? No spoilers. We have to, because this is something you need to do yourself, right? Your thoughts, sir?
I suggest, and it's difficult to not spoil this, isn't it? Because the whole thing is, don't find out anything about it and take it on trust that this is not the game it looks like. If you look at it in the store, it's got anime girls with skirts on in what looks like a high school environment, although the game is at pains to tell you in its first screen these girls are all over 18 years old. So don't worry about anything you're thinking about it, okay? It's fine. That's the implication. It isn't something that you need to worry about, okay? Because it doesn't do that.
It's not porny.
No. But what it does do is probably more disturbing.
Yes.
And I'm going to leave it at that.
And that takes some doing. How do they do the kind of the big mechanical thing that you had to do with the Steam release?
I'm not 100% sure I know what you're talking about.
I think I know what you mean.
Where you had to go and write some stuff down.
Yeah.
That's as close as I can get, and I'm about that far away from spoilering it for the Steam.
It's kind of a meta experience in that there's a framework around the game as well as it being a game in itself.
Yes, they've kind of improved.
That's not immediately evident. But
yeah, so the original release in 2016 is old. They've done a really good job here with Plus to up-resed art. Everything looks really clean, looks really nice. I'm playing it on PC. Rich is playing it on Xbox. I am slightly curious about the Xbox experience because it's very much a PC game in my mind. I think the one thing I want to say is there are some very serious warnings at the beginning of this game. They are justified, and also expect to do a lot of reading, like a lot of reading, because this is like a visual novel at heart, right? So, but it's worth it.
It's not much more than that, honestly. In gameplay terms, it's just reading text and choosing the next bit of text that you want to read.
But it's worth it. It's so hard to talk about.
Totally worth it.
I take it, Rob, you've not played it, but
you've got to do.
But you know about it.
I've not played it, but I know everything as spoiled as possible for this game, which does make me want to play it because I want to experience the
things and the stuff.
The things and the stuff that you go through. Yeah.
It's It's very, very well done. It's very, very well done. Check really it out. Well done. It's it's very intentionally subverting things with its look and everything about its music, which is, by the way, amazing. Throughout, the music is just brilliant. It's the thing.
If you like visual novels,
it's really well written.
Yeah,
so well written, so naturalistic. The writing, the character writing is so well done.
What are the achievements like for the game? Is it reasonably well achievemented?
Yeah, I think it encourages further playthroughs, which is a natural thing to want to do.
Yes.
Anyway,
I know I'm certainly min-maxing in this.
No.
Because well, I mean, would it be spoilerific to talk about the conceit of writing poetry? Would you say that was a spoiler?
No, because it tells you in the game description it's about that. So you are in a literature club with a bunch of girls.
Yeah, so
and you exchange poems with each other.
You write. There are different ways of writing the poems and different styles that appeal to the girls in different ways. So I picked one pretty much randomly at the beginning, and then have written specifically for that girl. So I've definitely min-maxed the crap out of that. And then you're going to want, what I'm saying about replayability is, you're going to want to go back and do that for the others, because you get bespoke story stuff off of how you focus. But I'm in my playthrough right now. I feel really guilty about writing for certain people and not others. So it's it's really effective. It sounds like so freaking weird to talk about, but yeah, it's really good.
It's really, in terms of replayability, it's really smart how it handles that stuff. Because you would think, because it's so text-based, it would get boring on a second playthrough. But it does let you skip through all of the stuff that you already know.
Yeah.
And if a slight hint that there's something new in there, it will stop that automatic fast forward. So you can play it really smartly and not get bogged down with stuff that you've gone through a couple of times. And just get to the new bits.
I can't
accidentally new stuff. You just constantly go, well, that's old.
I can't tell you.
It won't skip anything new. It will stop there because it knows.
I don't know if that was present in the original release. That might be an improvement in Plus, possibly. I can't remember. I didn't do replays originally. It was a long bloody time ago as well. It was 5 years ago I played this game. I could barely remember it, but. That's why I was like, when I saw Richard was playing it, I was like, and he beat it, I was like, I'm going to get this again. So even though I kind of remember some bits, it's still shocking me and catching me out and stuff. And I'm like, oh, wow, I'd forgotten how good this is.
So, Game Pass, isn't it?
No,
it's not.
I wish it was.
Okay.
That would have been great for Game Pass, man. It's not like they've got a lot of games like this on Game Pass.
I don't think there are a lot of games like this.
No, there aren't. There are a lot of visual novels.
It would be a good Game Pass game, but it's only about 10 or 12 quid. It's definitely worth buying.
Yeah, it's not super expensive.
And I think it's worth taking an evening out to just play through it. I just didn't stop. I started playing it and carried on until about midnight, I think, just because I wanted to see the end of it and. Flipping out. Not nice dreams that night. It's pretty grim.
Rob this week has had a life. Actually travelled a bit and did some things and didn't play games constantly.
I've not played console games at all this week.
But I have played a game which I know I can talk to Rob about, even though he hasn't played many this week. And I've been playing some Destiny. Shock! I played some Destiny too. I won't go on about it too much, but yeah, the new kind of mid-season event is happening right now, which is the Solstice of Heroes, which is all to do with the aerial zones back. I really wish they'd change up the aerial zone. They've made a few tweaks to make it a bit more user-friendly with the chests now not disappearing.
Tweaks.
Definitely good. However, it kind of is an acknowledgement of how this event is not fun. To actually do. However, the rewards are worth it. The armor is really nice, especially when you get the glowy stuff. And what it's nice about the armor leveling up is it encourages you to do basically to play the whole game, to play some strikes, to play some Crucible, to do things maybe you don't do, because most of us know which bits of Destiny we like and we sort of stick to them. But it's nice to sometimes remind yourself of why you don't play those parts of the game. And it's like, oh yeah, I still kind of think Crucible sucks. That's fine.
What I really like is that if you want to do this on all three characters, there are objects that you can buy from the vendor that speed it up on your alternate characters. Because Bungie are aware that a lot of players run 3 different ones. So it's not the same grind 3 times. It's a faster grind on your second and even faster on your third.
Wow, I saw those in the vendor and I didn't quite understand what they were. And now that makes a lot of sense. But again, doesn't that just tell you that what it's asking you to do isn't fun? It does seem strange that they've brought shortcuts into this mode that acknowledges the grind being tedious.
See, that is for the harder core players like myself. So if you just play Destiny more casually, you have a character that you play.
I'm being called casual because I don't main 3 characters.
Slightly more casual. And I'm sorry, have you finished the story for this season? Have you followed through everything?
I've caught all that up, yeah.
You've killed Curia? Yeah?
Yeah, wasn't very fun. Okay. It's kind of boring fight, but yeah.
There's a whole host of things that I could talk about with that, but that's irrelevant at the moment. You only main one character and you only play your Warlock, don't you? So for you, it's 1 grind done once, not 3 grinds. It's an acceptable grind once.
It's great language, though, isn't it? It's an acceptable grind. It still doesn't make it sound fun when you put it like that. But I know where you're coming from.
It's tolerable.
I think is very good, because I'm going to be going all 3. I'm going to try and get the T-shirt in this event. So, I'm crazy.
You are. You are officially crazy.
It's going to be my afternoon.
Yeah, I'm just having a look at the list here. Oh, Richard, do you want to talk? I mean, yeah, I don't know if we need to talk about everybody's bloody golf, but yeah, tell me about Ghost of Tsushima.
Everybody's golf is fun. Yeah, Ghost of Tsushima. This is slightly annoying because I've had this on the back burner for a little while, and I thought, yeah, I'll crack through that. Because I've got into a bit of a run recently of just getting platinum trophies on PlayStation games. I thought, yeah, Ghost of Tsushima, that's the next one. And I'm a decent way in, not too far. I'm still on the first section of the island, but I've explored most of it. And that's quite a job to get around, isn't it? You forget how hard it is when you haven't got a car and you've just got a horse. But yeah,
they have cars in feudal Japan.
Well, they haven't. That's exactly the problem.
Do you have the hook?
No.
Okay, I won't say any more.
Nearly. I think that's not far off. I've been told you need to go and get a thing to scale the castle wall, so I guess that's that.
It's important because if you want to do all the shrines and stuff, you need the hook.
Yeah, I've already found shrines that have told me, you haven't got a thing that you need to do this one. Come back later.
It feels good,
Really
though.
hooks you in that way.
Feels good to use, to traverse with. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, that'll be pretty fun. But I've really enjoyed it so far. I think I've appreciated being able to actually explore a game and not have loads of stuff all over the map. Because this handles that quite well. The map is pretty much shrouded in fog. It doesn't chuck things at you. There's not too much to do beyond what you come across. So that's good. That said, it doesn't leave you completely directionless either in terms of the story. You do know where you've got to go, but it kind of leaves it to you to take your own path. Looks great, even though it's a PS4 game. It's fairly late on in the generation, wasn't it? It looks brilliant. But I've stopped for now because they've just announced the upgrade, and I figure if I'm really going to enjoy this, I want to enjoy it at its best, and it would be a shame to waste it without seeing the benefit of the PS5 patch.
Yeah, whole new island as well. Big new expand area as well, I believe. But yeah, you got to spend another 30 quid to get it, but that's fine.
When's that coming out?
August.
Okay, so not far.
It's 25 quid, I think it is. I believe you can buy this separately. So there's new content, which is 15 quid.
All I know is, when I looked it up, the fact that there's half a dozen SKUs, I was just like, oh my God, really? This is so confusing.
It is, isn't it?
Christ, this is confusing.
Really, what they should have done is just charge for the new content, I think. And let everyone upgrade.
So you've got like
there's not even any benefit in. Yeah, exactly. But you can pay 25 quid to upgrade to the new content and the PS5 patch, or it's 10 quid for just the patch and 15 quid for the content. There's not any saving in buying them both together. It's 25.
So confusing. What?
Yeah.
And then of course there's the other added level of confusion that there's also the PS4 SKUs. So you can, of course, buy the new content on PS4 and upgrade, get that DLC. So God forbid you accidentally buy the wrong one, or buy a PS5, you're able to get one maybe a month later, because you'll have to then pay more to either buy it again or upgrade. Can you upgrade it then? Could you think, will you need to buy it special? Jesus Christ.
They must know what a mess it is, because you can't actually buy any of these upgrades until they're out. So I'm guessing that's accounting for people who buy the wrong thing by mistake, because then they can immediately say, oh, actually, can I have a refund because I bought the wrong one? It's
a shit show. And I think we talked about this last week, but it comes up every time. I just think, remember when they were talking about smart delivery back at the beginning, and we were like, oh yeah, whatever's. And it's just like the most brilliant forward thinking.
Really important.
Microsoft. They knew there weren't going to be a lot of games, and there was going to be a lot of upgrades and stuff like that. They knew that was coming, and they planned for it. Whereas PlayStation seems to, on every single IP, handle it differently. And it's so confusing. So
not just confusing, but it may or may not work. Yeah. Yes. And you got to pay for it. Yeah.
Oh God, it's grim. It's grim. The PlayStation 5 tax. I thought the Nintendo Switch tax was bad enough, but this is much worse. Christ almighty. Was there anything, Rob, you want to chuck out, or are you good?
No, I spent a few hours in Destiny on reset, but then it was plagued by server errors, so I've accomplished so little this week when it comes to video games. But like you said, I went out, had a life, and saw friends. Now that I had some time off work, and I had some So I've had some good times. So it's very much more preferable almost than video games, considering the last year and a half.
It's nice, yeah. Like why I was so happy to get back in the cinema and stuff. It's like, some bit of normal's nice.
Normality.
I guess even if we're conning ourselves, it still feels good.
This is the worry, innit? Because it's going to be normal properly from next week, innit? And to me, that just means
Week after.
week after, is it?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's not.
Nearly
it's
next week.
Just over a week.
Yeah.
I'm just a bit worried because it has been nice to get back to normal-ish activities. Going to the cinema is something that I love doing, and we've been able to go back for the past few weeks now. We've gone every week.
Means I'm going to
That's
try
great.
and pick awkward film times where not a lot of people are going to be available.
This is it. So the worry
Mornings
is
are
that too many more people will just think, yes, everything is back to normal now. We
Yeah.
are fine, and we're really not fine. You still have to be careful. So if anything, week after next, I might be going out less.
Anyway, and on that joyous note, I think we've come to the end of another episode of Experience Kills. That's been episode 39. I've been your host Ben. You can find me at DIYE on Twitter. You can find co-host Rob at Homeless Mr. Gibbs, and you can find co-host Richard at Colonel Red. You can find us collectively at Experience Kills. Please give us a like and subscribe and hit that notification icon. It really does help. This week I put out a couple of previews. So I put out a Black Skylands preview and I put out a preview of Encased. Well worth checking out both of those. Really good games, both out in early access right now, and they should definitely be on your radar for future releases. Spoilers, I basically said at the end of them, both of these are great games, but waiting for the full release probably wouldn't be a bad idea, because you're going to want to play the whole thing, because they're really good. So yeah, well worth checking out those as well. They're just quick videos, and they're available where this is also available as a podcast, as well as on the YouTube channel, and you can find us just about anywhere a podcast can be found. And if you do find somewhere that we aren't available, I can probably make that happen, so let me know and I will make it my quest to make that available for you.
Probably.
I said I'd try.
6 weeks ago, it was a promise.
It's a promise that I'll try. Okay, it's a promise that I'll try. I'm only human. I'm not the god of podcasts. Not yet. Working on it.
It's not the Godcast. Why has someone religious not made the Godcast?
That's got to
anyway?
exist. That's got to exist.
Yeah.
So until next time, we will be back with a proper Game Pass Club in 2 weeks, looking at Blood Roots, which looks like a lot of fun. So I'm actually really looking forward to getting in on that this week when it comes out. But we'll be back soon. Have a lovely week, everyone. Enjoy the games, and come on, England! Yeah.
Are we meant to go all yobbish now and join in with that? I haven't got it in me. I can't do it.